dive in here. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. And we were just talking about we are halfway across the world from each other. What part of Canada are you in right now?
We're in British Columbia, northern British Columbia,
Okay.
Prince George. Yeah,
Nice.
it's fairly rural, fairly up north, but
Yeah.
we like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I grew up in Arlington, Washington. So some of the winters we or summers we would pop up to BC. So you guys are like really far north.
Yeah, definitely. We are probably the farthest north where there's like a major city in
Yeah.
BC.
And has that
Yeah.
caused like any, challenges with you guys setting up your commercial facility up there?
I mean, we have to think about it, uh, do things a little bit differently because not only do we fight heat in the summertime, but
Mm-hmm.
we also fight really low negative temperatures in the wintertime.
Wow.
But we've got all the ACs dialed in and we've got everything working really smooth. Even if it hits negative 30, negative 35,
That's
pretty
crazy.
minor hiccups. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
crazy temps. So you guys are growing way up north, and are you from the area? Is that kind of how you chose to set up there?
yeah. You bet. Born and raised. Me,
Nice.
my wife, and my partner. We're all Prince George locals.
Okay, right on. And did you guys were you always growing in that area, or did you try? I know Ontario's pretty big with growing as well. Have you tried any other areas, or you're just like Prince George all the way
Yeah,
through?
yeah. I mean, it's home for us. So at the moment, we're just Prince George, BC. We have
Nice.
room to expand, but we have been looking at other facilities across the country as well.
Nice. Yeah, and walk me through that. Like, when did you guys open your doors? I know Canada be one of the first countries in the world to go federally legal. Walk me through those early days.
Yeah, the early days. I mean, we bought our building in 2020, which was basically um, right before COVID.
Yeah.
So what we actually had to do was make sure that the zoning was approved for cultivation before we bought it.
Mm,
And in Canada, even though it's federally legal, there's very little banking involved in the whole process, right? So what we had to do was actually we went and found a property that was kind of in foreclosure. It was a
smart.
pellet plant that wasn't going to be, they just never made it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but because it was a foreclosure, we had to literally, there's no financing available. So me and my partner, we sat down and we thought that we could make it happen. Basically liquidated all of our real estate and we ended up buying the facility. So that was day one.
Wow.
It took us 3 years to construct the facility and get it up to code and get our package in. And you actually do not find out if you're approved on licensing until you're completely built out and you submit your package. And along with that goes with security clearances and background checks
That's crazy
and
to
everything.
me. I mean,
So
you could have invested a lot into it. Thank God it
we
all
did.
went through,
Yeah.
right? And then, I mean, there's
Yeah,
probably some other
it's
facilities that got that news after
yeah.
they went all in.
Everybody has their story, right? So I mean, we're thankful that we pulled it off
Yeah.
because it was a huge risk and it was a huge investment. And to be honest, maybe we didn't even know how big it actually was when we started. So we got to find that out along the way, right?
Yeah. And that
But
could have
you know,
deterred you
we're
guys if you knew what everything that went in. Maybe you wouldn't have started.
that's right. Like I remember the first time we looked at the property. Me and my wife were in the building, and she's like looking around. She's like, "This is a $2 million project at least." And I'm like looking around because I'm like really handy with construction and I general contracted the whole thing, and I've done quite a few projects.
Wow.
And I was thinking, I'm like, nah, I think we can get it for like 3 or 400 grand. And we both missed the mark
Was it? It was more than 2
by a
million?
long shot.
Oh,
Oh
shit.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's been a lot of problems that came with that, but we made it. We made it happen. We're not the kind of people that kind of just sit down or roll over. So we had to sacrifice, you know, got rid of all the toys. Like I said, we got rid of the real
Yeah.
estate, and we did it the hard way. You know, I was involved in construction from day one, still to this day. Many conversations with the architects and the engineering and our regional district, get all the permits in place and everything, deal with inspections. But now we're here, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep, absolutely,
yeah,
man. And it's so worth it, right? Going all in. There's nothing like it. Whether you're playing poker or building a business, to go all in, full tilt on your dream and your passion with your family as well. You've been working with your wife for a long time on this facility. It's got to be, pretty exciting to have that in your guys' family.
definitely. And I think like to look back, and I really do think that it's worth it, especially there's a lot of talk about legacy of like, you know, these guys that used to be growers
Mm-hmm.
back in the day and stuff. And now when I look at it, I see a legacy of like what's ahead, right? Now we're trying to make our mark internationally, and
Mm-hmm.
we could we can potentially hand this down to our kids one day,
Yeah,
right? So I
absolutely.
mean, if you that's to me, that's what the legacy is
Yeah.
eventually. Yeah.
That's true legacy. And I remember the early days of Canada legalizing, just like, I mean, somewhat similar to the American market, but a lot faster and like all at once. But you had these like massive, almost like an MSO, right? These massive corporations that were going for scale. And you guys chose to go the craft, the boutique, right? Why was that
That's right.
choice? Why did you guys choose
Yeah,
to
I
go
mean,
down
when
that path?
we for sure. So like when when we opened the facility, there was many chances to bring partners on, you know, take capital, open bigger, but we kind of just stayed true to it. And we actually, when we opened the facility, we had 124 light flower room. So it's like as craft as it gets,
Yeah.
right? And to me, we just never really had that much passion in doing like really large square footage. And I think there was a lot of places that they brought on these large square footage facilities and they said that they were going to be craft, but it didn't really work out that way because you have a board of directors and budgets and everything. And to truly be craft, I feel like there's no corners cut
Mm.
and it doesn't really matter what the expense is, unfortunately. But that's kind of, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of our value comes in our inefficiencies, right?
Mm. That's powerful. That is a very powerful statement right
Yeah,
there. And you learn as you go as well.
that's right. So, kind of our goal, we had to get into the market to learn it, right? So it gave us time to learn the market, and then now we have to move forward, and we know what needs to be done. So we're bringing on more staff and bringing on more rooms, but we're doing it slowly, so we don't. That way, we don't really lose the culture that
Yeah.
we've created.
And from a business standpoint as well, right? Like if you build it phase by phase, reinvest your profit, right? It's a humble, meaningful, intentional growth. And you guys are always going to be on the right side of that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, we're really lucky that we've done as well as we've done, and we're kind of sitting in a position now where we're pre-sold for the foreseeable future. So
Wow.
now it's
Congrats.
actually it gets to be fun, right? Now it's bring on more cultivation space and potentially find new clients when we get there.
Yeah.
But
And you have the
yeah,
property
super
to do it as
grateful.
well.
Yeah,
You can keep expanding
yeah,
on
we're
that property.
definitely. We're on 120 acres
Wow.
and up in northern BC here, lumber and sawmills, they used to be a great big industry. So there was a sawmill down the road from us that unfortunately they closed their doors, but you know, it gives us a lot of power on the grid.
Yeah,
So
I bet.
expansion, you know, is potentially to the moon here.
Yeah, it's a new era. I mean, as a sawmill goes down and a cannabis company goes up, it's, it's really cool to see that. And I'm sure you guys
Yeah,
employ a lot of the, local community as well. And you're from there. So I'm sure the community is behind you guys and wants to see you succeed.
definitely. So that was actually one thing I can say is our local districts and stuff, they've been more than willing to work with us. And we're happy to say that we've got about 13 part-time positions here now, and
Nice.
myself and a manager full-time. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we plan on having about 30 full-time staff in the end of it.
Wow. And you guys are just pre-sold, as you said. Does that include international contracts as well?
Yeah, so recently we've started shipping internationally, and I think for the next 3 quarters, our production is booked.
Wow. And are we talking like
Yeah,
Germany, Australia, like those types of markets?
yeah. Our focuses are Germany and the UK right now,
Okay.
just because Germany specifically, because Germany kind of has the highest standards of cleanliness, and that's kind of what we do. We set our own standards for cleanliness.
Totally.
Typically, I think Germany is about 5,000 CFU on the yeast and mold, and right around the same on microbials. But what we strive for is to be in the hundreds on both. Yeah, so
So you
definitely
guys
our
are
mission to create
hitting
the
those
cleanest cannabis
standards.
possible.
You're hitting those standards in Canada. You know Germany's importing at those standards, so it's just a natural fit over there. I was actually just there for Mary Jane Berlin for about a week or
Nice.
two, and one of the most interesting things that I learned out there is that the domestic supply of cannabis is greatly tied, not only politically, but greatly tied to their own electrical grid, right, and the lack thereof. So there's
Yeah,
not as many large scale producers, but everyone's on fire for cannabis over there. As they legalize their market, they need to import from growers like you in Canada.
yeah. I think that that's one of the factors to look into, and another one is potentially in some of these other countries, maybe they don't necessarily have access to 120 acres and being able
Yeah.
to build a little bit bigger of a
Yeah.
site, right? So a lot of
Yeah.
times they get tied into 5,000 square foot buildings, and like doing business in Canada, I can kind of vouch that like you actually they make it really hard for a small cultivator to be profitable, So like if you're limited on your square footage with all the taxes and fees, maybe that 5,000 square feet building just doesn't quite hit the mark. It might
Hmm.
not even be possible.
Yeah, it's a really good point. The unit economics of the size of the facility, and even just looking at like the square feet in Berlin versus the square feet in Prince George, how profitable could you grow in those two different countries, even with shipping your product halfway across the world into Germany?
Yeah, exactly. And there's the price per kilowatt too, which
Mm-hmm.
also comes into effect.
Yeah, yeah, you're all of that. And I know, one of the things that we are talking about as well is just kind of like the systems you guys are running at your facility that drives that quality. So walk me through, how are you guys feeding your plants? What are you feeding your plants? Let's walk through that whole setup.
Yeah, so currently we're in a Canaflex coco bag, under 1 gallons. Typically I do about a 23-day veg, and then
Okay.
they go straight into the flower room and they're flipped on the same day that they go in. So it's super efficient, super fast, and kind of two-part nutrient, simple, reliable, consistent. Um, I really want to touch on the consistency thing, just because being a grower for so long, I think that there's potentially not that many people that are talking about it,
Hmm.
but being a grower for so long, we just know like you're only as good as your last batch.
Absolutely.
So like consistency to us and cleanliness, that's those are marks that have to be hit regardless.
Mm-hmm. And they've been in the game forever. So consistency comes from them learning over time as well, right? Decades of
That's
experience goes
right.
into those formulas. And were you always using Canna, or was this like a recent change?
When we started growing in this facility through legalization, we kind of sat down, and that's when we decided to go with Canna, just because the simplicity, the consistency. cost effectiveness, and the traceability as well.
Mm.
It's it becomes a big thing as you go into different markets, right?
Oh,
You have to have
totally.
traceability for sure.
Yeah.
We invest a lot of money into our crops, so without consistency and traceability, that could leave us open to error, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely a lot of trust that
Yeah.
goes into that.
Man, that's super interesting. Just, peeling back that layer for a moment of growing in Canada, selling into the UK, selling into Germany, goes all the way back to the nutrients and the substrates that you're using. I haven't really thought of it like that before, but you're right. You need that consistency and you need to know exactly what's going into your plants if you're going to be jumping over hurdles in another country. You don't have any
That's
room for
right.
error.
Exactly. It's all about baseline. And when I say baseline, it's even our well, like running an artesian well, we're super lucky to have nice water, but that requires testing every month, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's a living organism. So when you talk about baselines, you got to make sure your well, your nutrients, your substrate, everything's free of heavy metals. Otherwise, it's not going to make it anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys are dialed in, and have you ever used like loose cocoa versus their Coco Flex products? Have you seen the difference there?
Actually, we were growing before we were in Canna Coco Flex. We were in soil,
Oh, you're
right?
in
Pro
soil.
mix, basically. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in 2 gallon pots. And since we switched, all the staff is just they're so happy, right? I mean, we're not doing as much transplanting. The Coco Flex bags, they're smaller, they're lighter, they take up less room, they store better. Making the switch to cocoa is almost necessary as
Yeah.
we scale up. Uh, just like the amount of room that skids of soil take, and
Yeah, and the labor, right? You guys have 13
yeah,
part-time, crew workers, and every minute counts. And you said you're flipping on the same day as well, so it's like you guys are a fine-tuned race car, and everything is just kind of exactly how you need it, right? Easy to integrate.
exactly. And I actually love the comparison between growing and racing put together because a lot of people don't actually realize how extreme you're growing in a facility like this. Like we're talking about growing cannabis, it's the highest micromoles plant in the world
Mm,
and potentially the highest value crop in the world as well.
yeah.
So, I don't think that people really understand how tight the parameters are in a truly dialed in environment.
Right? Just like missing a turn. I mean, it could be deadly. I've seen the
Yeah.
photos, just like you've seen the photos of some of those massive facilities in Canada. Total crop failure. It's just like the most
Mm,
depressing photo out there in the early days. There's just the entire greenhouse is just dead. And that, I mean, it hurts to see that.
yeah, exactly. And you need a good driver for your car, but you need a good pit crew too, right? Like
Yep.
everything's got to happen.
It's an
The more,
ecosystem.
the more you tighten your schedule, the more everything has to happen on time. It comes with a lot of challenges working around stat holidays and
Yeah.
yeah,
Of
but
course, and you guys are going to
um,
be doubling to 30, so I'm sure you guys have quite a bit of SOPs in place. And what does that training look like for you guys internally?
yeah, for sure. So we have a lot of SOPs in place. Everything basically has a detailed way in which we do things,
Mm-hmm.
what's acceptable and what's not. I'm actually working on building video SOPs and a
Oh,
training
nice.
program kind of as we speak. Yeah, so I mean, our end goal for the end of 2025 is to have about 250 hours of video SOPs and training.
Wow.
And then depending on where you're working in the facility, that's always readily available, right?
Yeah, the Kush Mountain Academy, man, just
Yeah,
right
exactly.
there.
Well, we could take it there if we wanted to, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, well,
Um,
you guys are setting the bar for a lot of operators out there, not just in Canada, but I feel like a lot of these larger facilities could learn a lot from you, and what you guys have built out there.
That's right. And I think that a lot of that is due to being so small and being self-funded. We
Hmm.
don't have, for say, 5 years to enter the market and not be profitable. I mean, if our crops don't turn out and they don't sell, we're not feeding our family. So
Hmm.
uh, just kind of take that to the level of discipline, and then you just make sure everything gets done all the time, right?
Hmm.
Once you have that mindset, like if your crops aren't going to make it, you're not going to eat. Um, and then you take that into your SOPs, right?
Yeah. No, 100%. And I know we were kind of talking about, growing in BC versus Quebec or Alberta, but what do those markets look like? Like, what do you see are the biggest differences? Like, if we went to go visit your farm versus, Atlantic Cultivation. I mean, they're a little bit further east, but or Canara is another one that I've spoken to. What are those differences that you see in those markets?
Yeah, definitely. I think that BC is just so well rooted. I mean, it doesn't matter. We go back 15 years ago, say you're at a different job, like one of your coworkers, one of your bosses, your friend's dad, like it doesn't matter. You knew somebody that was involved in growing weed,
Mm,
right? So like maybe you didn't even know that they were in the industry, but you knew it. So I mean, on a small staff, say I have 10 people in the room, like even in our trim room, our production room, there's easily over 150 years of experience and culture just in that room in 10 people, right? So I just think like BC's built a really great name for itself. There's not that many places in Canada or in the world that have a name associated with cannabis. And I think that you could probably go on all day, but nobody really knows what the secret sauce is.
mm. Well, it's that history,
Like,
right? The culture
yeah,
that you guys have passed down from generation to generation. Like, yeah, a lot of people at some point in time moved to Humboldt, and they brought their trade secrets with them, their genetics, but they built a community, right? And I think that's what it really boils down to is BC has an unparalleled community that has just supported itself, and also being underground, as it used to be. I think there's a lot more tighter bonds in those communities.
yeah, definitely. So that's one thing I will say about the north is like everybody's experience of growing cannabis, it's always indoor, right? There's no outdoor basically in Prince George. So, but that's good, right? Because we're growing indoors. So
Yeah,
all those years of experience, they help you not run into problems.
yeah,
Right? Stay ahead of
100%.
them, right?
Yeah.
Stay ahead of them. That's
Canada as a whole is one of the only countries
yeah,
that can export product right now. And there's
yeah,
other countries coming online that are really built to be import markets. But let's say Colombia uh, and Canada, British Columbia, Canada, you guys can both export. So I'm just curious in learning about any challenges, let's say over the next 5 or 10 years for the Canadian market that you guys, I don't know, foresee in being able to export into some of these other markets.
yeah, definitely. So when we're talking about export, I think we're kind of lucky. Canadian craft cannabis, it holds, a high value, but I also I think that there's a little bit more to it than that. Um, as other countries come on and they're able to export into these countries, I think what it's really going to boil down to is buyers doing their homework and finding the really great operators in whatever country that might be, and who's creating the absolute best, cleanest cannabis, right?
Mm,
I don't think it's going to be categorized to one country. I
yeah.
think that, like if I'm a buyer and I'm out there looking for the best product, I'm gonna probably find, search in BC and probably Humboldt.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always, fascinated, Tyson, with what the future of our market will hold. We early on with Grow World, we went down to Colombia. We went to specifically Bogota, and we filmed, about 4 or 5 facilities down there. One of them being an extraction lab, and asking them similar questions to what I'm asking you. Just curious about their market, where they see themselves heading, etc. And it always just kept coming back to genetics, 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 genetics. That is what they think prioritizing and investing in will help them separate themselves from the global market. But in talking with you, like you have the genetics, you are the genetics, right? So you guys have that. That's not your challenge compared to, Colombia trying to get their hands on, some of the stuff that you guys have been growing for generations and enter that into the public, markets.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, genetics is a huge focus, right? But um, genetics don't perform the same from facility to facility. So I think that there needs to be a bigger focus on craft and what you're doing with the genetics rather than the genetics. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen it time and time again, like the genetics are different from facility to facility.
Yeah.
So I, genetics is huge. And I mean, we're always trying to find new stuff and bring stuff to the market, but there's a lot of good staples. And I think just growing the genetics properly to their full potential, treating them as their own. I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's really the future of the industry.
Yeah.
Instead of just having a program where it's like a one size fits all, right? So what we're doing with our genetics is we're actually spectrum tuning, trying to find the best spectrum
Hmm.
with that genetic, along with crop steering and environmentals, flowering times, specific to those genetics, as opposed to having a one size fits all program.
Mm.
And I think that a lot of people, as they scale up, they start to drift away from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes
It's,
complete sense. I mean, you're looking more for output, therefore you need to standardize. When you standardize, I mean, you don't have that variability. You guys are doing like spectrum tuning by the individual light fixture, by the room, by the bay. Like, how are you guys doing it?
yeah, right now, so we've got it set up. Each room is on its own controller, top deck and bottom deck, and then we have zones where we have our baseline spectrum, and then we have zones where we can play with it just to see what's going to happen because having the ability to run hundreds of different spectrums is kind of like Pandora's box in a
Yeah.
sense. Like where do you start? Where do you stop? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So we know where we're starting, but the options. I mean, we could be researching spectrum tuning for easily the next 50 years, especially when you start talking strain specific spectrum tuning, right? Like
Mm.
not every genetic is the same. So
Yeah, they're all going to respond differently. And do you have any early findings that you can share with us today? Anything that you thought was super fascinating in some of these early tests?
yeah, for sure. So like right now what we're doing is we're not going super hard on the far red and we're running about five different spectrums through the life cycle in the flower room. So basically, I mean, if we're going to just talk in layman's terms, we keep
Mm-hmm.
it super blue through stretch, and that way we're able to really get the node spacing and keep our stretch down that we're looking for. And then beyond that, we're kind of going to a more of a traditional HPS spectrum. And then as the time goes on, we are bringing the blue back in, finishing on blue, just because I know I've grown for a long time and I've grown almost under every bulb that you can do, and each one has something special about it. So I think like taking that little bits and putting it all together, I think we're finding the quality that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. And we've seen, this transition pretty much. I think we're somewhat coming to the end of it from HPS over to LED. Just 10 years ago. Are you guys going backwards, reintroducing HPS, or, what does that look like in your guys' facility?
Yeah, so I mean, like I I am actually a long-term HPS grower, and I never really thought that I would make the switch to LED per se. Kind of was a really hardcore HPS guy, but
Yeah.
I never made the switch to LED to be under LED. Like the spectrum tuning lights we can create. the HPS spectrum with the LED so we can get more efficiency. And I don't feel like the HPS spectrum needs to be left behind, but I do feel like it just has a time and a place where it's ideal.
Yeah. And what is that? Like, what does that look like in your facility when you would use that versus, let's say, an LED?
Yeah, so like we run the HPS spectrum between usually week 3 and week 5.
Okay.
And what we're seeing is it kind of just helps us get a little bit more of a bulky bud. And then we go back to blue to really focus on resin development.
Nice. And some of the genetics that you guys are running, I'm sure it's like kind of Canadian born genetics that you're bringing into the European markets.
Yeah, that's right. And also along with the HPS on that note, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of our genetics, they've been selected under HPS. So when you go to a strictly a full spectrum LED, it's not the same. Uh, it's not the same quality as it once was, for better or for worse, depending on the genetic. But I just find it's really handy that we can use the best of both worlds. Maybe if we find something that doesn't like the HPS spectrum, well, we can just run full spectrum,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 100%. What are some of those
Yeah.
top selling SKUs for you guys, Tyson?
Yeah. Typically right now, I mean, a lot of our sales are just B2B. So we grow kind of what the producer's asking for,
Okay.
but yeah, we definitely we had a really nice pink Kush along with a pine tar that we started out with. And the BC market, I mean, you're talking about a lot of consumers have been smoking weed for 20 years plus. So if it doesn't actually pack a serious punch, you don't really get a lot of velocity. So there's a lot of really big gas lovers out there, and we kind of filled that void for them.
Nice. And have you seen, let's say, the German market versus the UK market? Have you seen their taste profile differences yet? Or are they kind of just highest THC, best price?
Yeah, I think that really all comes down to who you're dealing with, and your clients, right? Like it seems like the majority of the market in Germany, they want 30% kind of thing, 30%, 3% terps. But there is a lot of genetics that come in at 25 to 27 that personally I would rather consume. But I mean, with education, things will change maybe. But Canada, what did we legalize in 2018? There's still a big driver around high THC. I'm pretty sure you guys see it as well in the States, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately, right?
Yeah,
Terps over
yeah,
THC. I think it's gonna be another 10 years of education, as well as there's all these new consumers coming into the market of all different generations. And oh, I used to smoke back in the '60s, and this stuff is way too strong, right? I don't want a high THC. Want something that has more of an effect and lower effect, right? So there's all these different generations and consumers turning on, which to us, I mean, that's exciting. There's new markets out there to explore.
definitely. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of niches too, right? With one-to-ones and low THC, high CBDs. But typically, right now, we just kind of like to line up a client, line up what they want, and give them what they want, whatever that may be. I mean, the buyer kind of has
The
a say,
say,
right?
yeah,
So, I mean, if whatever it is, whatever they want, uh, it's kind of our job to provide them with the best version of it that we can.
yeah. Have you found any difficulties in reaching out to groups, let's say in Germany, for example, or are they mostly contacting you guys directly?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in our earlier stages of looking at the market, I think we were reaching out, and I'm not going to lie, I mean, it is a little bit hard with different time zones and being halfway across the world and whatnot. But I feel like in the last year, we've created enough momentum where we don't really have to, per se, reach out to buyers and clients. For the time being. It seems like they're just coming to us,
Yeah.
which is good. I mean, it gives us more time to focus on what we do and less marketing. Right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's
And
where we want to be.
you're
Yeah,
3/4 sold out. We can't say that for a lot of farms right now. They're trying to get rid of product, at least in the States. In certain markets, it's just been decimated. So the fact that you guys are pre sold, pretty much an entire year, that's phenomenal.
definitely. And I will say that, it comes with really staying true to your word. And like I said, you're only as good as your last batch. So just because, we have, you know, crops in production and crops booked out, it doesn't mean that we get to take a break. Like we still do everything as if that crop is going to a new client and we have to impress them. And that's the key to being pre-sold.
Mm,
We've set our standard high and we maintain it. And if it doesn't meet the standard that we've set, I mean, it's a different conversation. All of a sudden, it's not pre-sold anymore. So, as happy as we are to sit here and say that we're pre-sold, we know that there's a lot of work that goes with it. But that's okay. It's our job.
yeah, that's what you guys signed up for, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're not. It's um, yeah. I mean, if I was buying and the batch wasn't the same as the last batch and it didn't meet the marks, now you get into these situations that you hear a lot about, right? People send their batches over and then all of a sudden, they're not getting paid or the batch, has to be destroyed because it can't be shipped back. And I just think growing it to the highest ability that you can and processing it in the same manner and being on the same page is that's all we can really do to ensure good success.
Yeah. That would be a nightmare to send your crop over, not only not get paid, but then have to destroy it, having it come back to Canada. I mean, that could end a company right there. Um,
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's crazy to me. There's got to be another way to offboard, product that doesn't meet the muster. But again, I mean, international markets for cannabis are just legal markets are just opening up for the first time. I think we're kind of figuring out these connections, and at Grow World, it's our hope that we can help commercial growers just kind of level up. And there's a grower out there that's watching this when this goes live, and they're going to learn a lot from you. And hopefully be a buyer of your product, or maybe it's a Canadian grower and they can learn how to raise their standards to how you guys cultivate. That's the goal.
yeah. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Like at Kush Mountain and just whatever in general. I just think that we come to work and we just try to do better every day.
Yeah, hustle, man. I love to
So
hear
you know
that.
what I mean? Like it's just you come in day after day after day and try to make your life better, bring that into your business, and in 5 years from now, who knows where we're going to be.
Yeah. Well, in 5 years from today, it's going to be 2030. Where is Kush Mountain going to be? Are you guys going to be in multiple provinces? Obviously, you're probably going to expand your import list.
Yeah, that's right. So like in 5 years from today, we plan on having another 20,000 square foot building beside us at least, and have our 8 flower rooms functional and be importing in. Want to like ideally we would like to have 2 to 3 100 kg contracts with some good clients in Germany and the UK. Maybe a little bit some smaller contracts with newer emerging markets and whatnot. But Canada, they built a system that is very hard to operate in. And there's a lot of taxes and a lot of regulatory and a lot of everything that goes with it. And we're striving to meet such higher standards. Like I was saying, we have yeast and mold and microbial counts in the hundreds. Whereas, I mean, in Canada, you're looking at about 50,000. So I just feel like medical is our actual call, if
Mm,
that makes sense.
yeah, and medical. You're saying all the way through to medical markets. You're
That's
building
right.
your facility, your team, your SOPs, everything that you're exporting is into ideally a medical market. And also, I would imagine you could fetch a higher price per kilo with all those different certs that you guys are jumping through.
Yeah, and I think, the price per kilo, you could potentially get it higher and whatnot, but like us being able to be pre-sold, our focus is really to have the cleanest product.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So like we're gonna get a higher price for the absolute cleanest medicine, but from a buyer standpoint, I mean, see your THC, you're up to 33%. Well, if one batch is cleaner than the next, I think it's just a no-brainer at the same price, right? So cleanliness is just what's going to keep us in the game along with everything else, right? It can't just be obviously clean. You have to hit all the other markers, but once you hit all that and you maintain your cleanliness and you're selling internationally, yeah, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, it really is. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Tyson, for being part of the Grow World community. Super grateful for learning more about your story today and just seeing your guys' continued success. So thank you.
Thank you. I mean, we brought the photographer, your videographer in. I think he got some really great shots, and you know, we just really appreciate the opportunity for you guys to be showcasing us. So thank you at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
you got it, man.
Yeah,
Well,
we appreciate it.
we're
Yeah.
down in Mexico right now. You're up in up way far up north, so we're gonna have to go up there, bring the whole crew out, and film your farm someday soon.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime, let us know.
Right on. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Okay. Have a good day. You too.